The world is bigger than five. According to this view, democracy is a product of Western culture, and it cannot be applied to the Middle East, which has a different cultural, religious, sociological, and historical background. Whatever our Lord says, whatever our beloved Prophet says, we shall follow that path. A political party cannot have a religion, only individuals can. Otherwise, you'd be exploiting religion, and religion is so supreme that it cannot be exploited or taken advantage of. In this country, there is a segregation of black Turks and white Turks. Your brother Tayyip belongs to the black Turks. If you're the leader, you have to communicate the message of immortality to your people, because I believe if a leader hides behind a rock, then the people will hide behind a mountain. Strong families lead to strong nations. Every country needs a strong leader in order to progress. Before anything else, I'm a Muslim. As a Muslim, I try to comply with their requirements of my religion. I have a responsibility to God, who created me, and I try to fulfill that responsibility. But I try now very much to keep this away from my political life, to keep it private. A country without a strong leader will go down. Democracy is like a streetcar. When you come to your stop, you get off. The mosques are our barracks, the domes our helmets, the minarets our bayonets, and the faithful our soldiers. If we look at history, we will see that regimes which persecute their people do not remain standing. However, democracy cannot be defined as the existence of parliaments and elections alone. As a politician who cherishes religious conviction in his personal sphere, but regards politics as a domain belonging outside religion, I believe that this view is seriously flawed. There is no moderate or immoderate Islam. Islam is Islam, and that's it. Even in the Western world, one cannot argue that the ideal has been achieved given the existence of issues like the integration, participation, and representation of Muslim citizens and occasional but lingering anti-Semitism. I went back in British history. Some 204 people died there after a mine collapsed in 1838. In 1866, 361 miners died in Britain. In an explosion in 1894, 290 people died there. These are usual things. There are people who say that GG 1/4 can't be my president. These people don't have good manners for and they should renounce their Turkish citizenship. For most, this man will be chosen democratically by the people. You cannot put women and men on an equal footing. It is against nature. They were created differently. Their nature is different. She should not laugh loudly in front of all the world and should preserve her decency at all times. They came to me with this case of Twitter ignoring case of smeared housewife. I regard the endorsement of both, the objective and a method, which can differ from one country to another of democratization, by the parties in the region as a basic requisite of democratization in the Middle East. There exists an unmistakable demand in the Middle East and in the wider Muslim world for democratization. Invariably, also a Palestinian state should lie side by side with Israel, within recognized and secure borders, and the security and prosperity of the Palestinian people must be guaranteed. Our religion has defined a position for women in society. Motherhood, some people can understand this, while others can't. You cannot explain this to feminists because they don't accept the concept of motherhood. Forsake alcohol, eat grapes instead. Similarly, gender equality, supremacy of law, political participation, civil society, and transparency are among the indispensable elements that are the imperatives of democratization, even as we ought to accept that each country would progress with a different method and speed toward that goal. The standard for the expected end state should not be lowered. I am aware of the thesis that the United States has long since invested exclusively in stability, and this has obviated democratic transformation in the Middle East. Everyone should unconditionally accept that Israel is an indispensable element of the Middle Eastern mosaic. In other words, the bar should be maintained at the level of a pluralistic and participatory democracy. My visit to the United States has also given me the opportunity to emphasize the objective of establishing close and intensive links between the Turkish and American peoples, scholars, and businessmen. The Muslim world and its subset, the countries of the Middle East, have been left behind in the marathon of political, economic, and human development. For that, there is a tendency to blame others as the primary cause. But foremost, I do not subscribe to the view that Islamic culture and democracy cannot be reconciled. A confidence problem exists on the part of the people of the region who desire democratic rule and principle, but remain suspicious of both the fashion with which democratization is presented and the purposes of the democratic world. It is essential that policy instruments be developed that would firmly establish democratization on the basis of social consensus and enable transformation on stable grounds. Paramount is the need to secure human rights. The form of rule should be such that the citizen does not have to fear the state, but gives it direction and confidently participates in its administration. The U.S. and the European Union needs to help in the translation of the demand for democracy into a political will. A fitting external security environment could also play an important role in promoting social consciousness and institutionalization towards democratization. We are against the majority tyrannizing the minority, but we are definitely against the minority tyrannizing the majority. It is impossible to preserve my friendship with people who are allegedly leaders when they are attacking their own people, shooting at them, using tanks and other forms of Several experts on the Middle East concur that the Middle East cannot be democratized. There is a trouble called Twitter. The finest lies are here. Nowadays, social media is actually the headache of societies. Cave of the Patriarchs and Rachel's tomb were not and never will be Jewish sites. I am a person who is inclined to define relations between individuals based on principles. Therefore, the observation must be explicitly made. In the Middle East and in the Muslim world, suspicions linger concerning the objectives of the West and notably the U.S. The purpose cannot be creating self-styled democracies, but rather encouraging steps that are conducive to establishing democratic rule at universal standards. Obviously, this would be a formidable journey. Similarly, it is argued that the culture of Islam is incompatible with democracy. Basically, this conventional perspective of the Middle East thus contends that democracy in that region is neither possible nor even desirable. The foundations of democratic transition should be laid in accordance with a sincere and committed strategy that is supported by various policy tools and implemented wisely. Therefore, the question is not whether such democratization is possible, but instead how to meet the yearning of the masses in the Middle East for democracy. In other words, how to achieve democratization in the Middle East. The advanced levels which the democratic world has attained at the end of lengthy processes may have created the perception in the region that democracy is a distant concept. This perception can be addressed. We won't allow the people to be devoured by YouTube, Facebook, or others. I should like to repeat what I stated recently in the Jeddah Economic Forum in Saudi Arabia. It won't be the religion, but rather the worldview of some of its followers that shall be made current. It is obvious that putting the Arab-Israeli dispute on a resolution track would be an important element of overcoming the confidence problem in the region. I take the debate on the method of promoting democracy seriously. We will not leave this nation at the mercy of YouTube and Facebook. Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube have to respect the Turkish Republic's laws. A lasting solution to this problem will have an exceptionally positive influence foremost on the peoples of Palestine and Israel, as well as on the region and the international community. What should be targeted is a concept of organic and not just mechanic democracy that preserves the rule of law, separation of powers, and that is participatory and pluralistic. There is now a scourge that is called Twitter. According to this view, democracy is a product of Western culture, and it cannot be applied to the Middle East, which has a different cultural, religious, sociological, and historical background. I cannot understand how sensible people still defend Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. In this context, social consensus and institutions that embody this consensus must be made effective in order for democratization not to be abused as a provisional instrument to establish an anti-democratic regime.